This is the story of a boy named Haruki who lives with his 4 sisters. At the beginning of the story, Haruki is sleeping, and beside him, his sister Yayoi is also asleep. Both of them had stayed up late studying, which is why they fell asleep. Just then, Uzuki and Satsuki, Haruki's younger twin sisters, enter the room to wake Yayoi. But Yayoi doesn't wake up, so they ask Haruki for help. They start bothering Haruki, tickling him, which makes him stretch out his hand and grab Yayoi. This wakes Yayoi, but she misunderstands the situation and starts beating Haruki. Just then the eldest sister, Mutsuki, intervenes and threatens them by saying that she'll call their mother if they don't stop. This works, and the fight stops because they don't want to get into trouble. After that, Haruki starts getting ready for school. Meanwhile, Uzuki and Satsuki arrive, requesting him to help them get ready, as they are too young to do it themselves. Haruki helps them and eventually, they all leave for school. The day progresses and the next scene shows Haruki watching a horror movie at home. During a scary scene, Haruki notices 4 eyes near his door, which frightens him. Later, we shift to Yayoi, who is changing her clothes when she sees the same 4 eyes. Gathering courage, she opens the door and finds Uzuki and Satsuki holding a paper. They explain that they've been given a school project to write about their family members. Mutsuki enters the scene and advises them to do their homework properly. Later, the twins read out their report. In it, they write that Haruki is the only boy in the family who loves playing video games and is addicted to them. About Yayoi, they write that she's not good at much but excels in sports. For Mutsuki, they write a lot, describing her as the eldest sister who is very attractive and excels in everything, be it cooking, sports, or studies. With these reports, they go to school and score the highest marks. The next day, when Haruki returns from school, he sees Mutsuki sleeping on her bed with minimal clothing. He tries to wake her, but she's in a deep sleep. Thinking someone else might come in, he decides to leave the room. Later, Uzuki and Satsuki return from school. Mutsuki enters the room, now dressed, but one of her socks is not properly worn. Concerned about her image, Haruki quickly jumps to fix her sock. Yayoi sees this and misunderstands the situation, leading to Haruki getting beaten. Despite this, Haruki explains that he was only trying to protect his elder sister's image. Feeling disheartened, he tries to move past this incident. At night, we see Mutsuki heading for a bath when Haruki suddenly appears and hands her a towel. Haruki does this because a few days earlier, Mutsuki had forgotten her towel while bathing and had asked Haruki to fetch it for her. While retrieving it, Yayoi saw him, leading to a misunderstanding and Haruki getting beaten again. To avoid a similar situation, Haruki now keeps a towel ready. Later, when Haruki returns to his room, he finds Mutsuki there, wearing just the towel. She was lying on his bed, reading a magazine. When Haruki asks her what she is doing, she replies that she doesn't like wearing clothes immediately after bathing and will leave in a while. Haruki agrees, but Mutsuki falls asleep, meaning Haruki cannot sleep in his room that night. The next day, it's a school holiday, so everyone heads to the market. Yayoi notices a deal on rice balls and asks Haruki to carry a 30-kilogram sack of rice. Haruki struggles but manages to carry it. Meanwhile, Uzuki and Satsuki accompany Mutsuki to food stalls offering free samples. The food tastes so good that their cute expressions make the stall owners keep giving them samples. However, Mutsuki tells them it's wrong, but when she tastes the food herself, she can't resist and ends up sampling everything. Later they found out that they forgot to buy the curry. Since Haruki likes spicy curry but he had to buy mild one for his younger sisters. After finishing at the mall, they decide to cook the curry tasty and spicy at home. Haruki prepares the meal. Uzuki and Satsuki are initially worried that it might be too spicy, but they end up enjoying it. The following day, Haruki returns from school and finds Satsuki waiting for him with a manga. She wants someone to read it with her, but Uzuki isn't interested, so she waits for Haruki. When Haruki refuses, Satsuki starts reading it alone. Haruki asks Uzuki why she isn't reading with her sister, to which Uzuki replies that she doesn't like manga. Haruki suggests she play with Satsuki or tease her a little, but Uzuki, maturely, says their teacher has taught them that teasing others is wrong. Haruki is impressed by her maturity, considering how young she is. However, Uzuki then sits Haruki down and starts putting clothespins in his hair for fun. After Satsuki finishes reading, she joins Uzuki to play. Haruki realizes their teacher might not have taught them that this too counts as teasing. By the evening, after playing, Satsuki and Uzuki turn on the TV to watch their favorite anime. Satsuki sits too close to the TV, worrying Haruki, who tries to correct her, but she ignores him. Uzuki explains that when Satsuki watches her favorite shows, she neither listens to anyone nor notices anything else. After the show, they return to their room to play, only to come back later for the next show. Haruki feels ignored but tells Uzuki he doesn't mind. After a few days, we see that Haruki returned from school, where he received the exam timetable. With exams approaching quickly, he was feeling a bit stressed. He decided to go to his room to study in peace. However, upon entering his room, he found Mutsuki lying on his bed in a rather awkward position. She was awake and casually told Haruki that she knew about his upcoming exams and was willing to teach him anything he wanted to learn. Hearing this, Haruki immediately rejected the offer, as her words sounded extremely suggestive to him, just like they would to us. This upset Mutsuki a little, and she mentioned that she had offered to tutor Yayoi as well, but Yayoi had refused for some unknown reason and left. Later, when Haruki went to meet Yayoi, she asked him to tutor her since Haruki was good at studies. Haruki agreed, but despite his efforts, Yayoi struggled to understand anything he explained. While reviewing her past test papers, Haruki discovered that her main problem was with math, specifically multiplication. He asked her to write down all her problems on a sheet to help her understand better and remember the multiplication process. However, even after all this, Yayoi couldn't grasp the concepts. During this time, Uzuki and Satsuki entered the room. Uzuki wished Yayoi good luck and remarked that, while the other subjects were manageable, she needed to excel in math because everyone in their family was exceptionally good at it. She added that both she and Satsuki had scored the highest marks in math among their siblings. Hearing this only made Yayoi feel even more dejected. The next day, after her exam, Yayoi returned home but seemed to be behaving differently. She was avoiding Haruki, and he guessed that her exam hadn't gone well. He asked her for her test paper, but Yayoi refused to show it to him. Haruki tried to take her bag to see it for himself, but in the process, he slipped, causing Yayoi to fall, with Haruki landing on her. This resulted in a highly awkward position, which Mutsuki happened to witness as she walked into the room at the worst possible time. Seeing this, Mutsuki froze in shock and began to think that she needed to ensure that her siblings didn't get too close to each other since this was, after all, a family environment. In the next scene, Yayoi returned home from school and found her younger sisters, Uzuki and Satsuki, wearing swimsuits. When she asked them why they were dressed that way, they explained that they had swimming class that day and were getting ready for it. This made Yayoi think that they should also go to the beach for swimming. When she discussed this idea with Mutsuki, Mutsuki reminded her that it was winter and going to the beach would be dangerous. However, Yayoi joked that she could wear a sweater and swim, though that wouldn't be fun. Yayoi agreed and dropped the idea, but soon another idea struck her. A while later, Haruki returned home and felt the house unusually warm. Upon entering, he found Yayoi and Mutsuki dressed in sunsuits. This immediately explained the rise in temperature. However, Yayoi attacked Haruki in a rather dramatic way, angrily reminding him that he had promised to take them to the beach last summer but hadn't. Haruki tried to apologize, explaining that he couldn't take them because of his exams. Yayoi wasn't convinced and told him that this summer she also had exams, so they wouldn't be able to go to the beach again. Haruki thought to himself that if that was the case, why was she angry in the first place? Later, Haruki went to his room, but Yayoi stopped him and handed him a swimsuit, saying she had a great idea. She brought out an inflatable pool they used during childhood, filled it with air and water, and invited everyone to join. However, the pool was too small for them now, as they had grown up. When Uzuki and Satsuki returned home, they found the three of them shivering from the cold since most of their bodies weren't in the water, and they were sitting outside with barely any clothes on. After a few days, we see Satsuki discovering a manga that she starts reading with Uzuki. In the manga, the story revolves around two young girls who look very different from each other. Later, It is revealed that they were adopted and not biological siblings. This idea starts to bother Satsuki and Uzuki, who begin to suspect they might also be adopted. This thought makes them quite upset. Sometime later, Haruki comes across them, and Satsuki shares her doubts with him. To reassure her, Haruki shows her an old family photo of Mutsuki when she was around 7 years old, looking very similar to Satsuki. This makes Satsuki happy, as she realizes she is not adopted. However, Uzuki becomes doubtful instead. She starts to wonder why she doesn't resemble anyone in the family and begins to question if she might be adopted. Uzuki notices that Haruki resembles their father, Mutsuki and Satsuki look alike, but she doesn't resemble anyone. She becomes increasingly sad and begins searching the house for clues to confirm her doubts. Eventually, Mutsuki notices Uzuki's behavior and asks her what's wrong. Uzuki shares her worries, and Mutsuki shows her an old photograph of their grandmother as a child. The resemblance between their grandmother and Uzuki is uncanny, which finally reassures Uzuki that she is a biological member of the family. Uzuki feels relieved, but then Yayoi enters the scene. Yayoi is extremely upset because she scored very low marks in her exams. She tells everyone that her siblings and parents are all good at studying, while she struggles. This leads her to believe that she might be adopted. Her suspicion seems reasonable to her because, unlike the rest of her siblings, whose names all share a Uzuki or Satsuki pattern, her name Yayoi is completely different. Everyone tries to comfort her, but she refuses to listen. Later that evening, Haruki is walking to his room when Uzuki suddenly appears and hugs him tightly. Just then, Satsuki walks in and, shocked, asks Uzuki what she is doing. Uzuki brushes it off as nothing and walks away. Haruki feels awkward but dismisses the incident. During dinner, Uzuki sits next to Haruki and keeps staring at him, making him feel uncomfortable. Haruki suspects that Uzuki might have done something to his food, but after eating it, he realizes it's fine. Later that night, when Haruki is about to sleep, Uzuki enters his room with a picture book and asks him to read it to her. Haruki obliges, and after listening, Uzuki leaves but suddenly tells him that she has started liking him. Haruki feels very awkward but says nothing. After Uzuki leaves, Satsuki enters and tells Haruki that she knows what's going on. She explains that Uzuki has been reading a manga where a younger sister teases her older brother by making him feel uncomfortable. Haruki thinks such manga should not even exist. The next day, Uzuki herself confesses to Haruki that her behavior was inspired by the manga she had been reading. That night, Haruki is fast asleep when he suddenly wakes up to find Mutsuki standing over him. She appears to be sleepwalking but is awake enough to tell him that she needs his help. Mutsuki then leans closer and tells Haruki that she wants to kiss him. This surprises Haruki and he asks why. Mutsuki explains that there's a school play where she is cast as the princess, as no one else agreed to take the role. As part of the play, the princess has to kiss the prince. Since Mutsuki has never kissed anyone before, she wants to practice a fake kiss with Haruki. However, Haruki finds this inappropriate and refuses, telling her that he can't help her. Mutsuki leaves, feeling rejected. Later, Haruki feels bad about being so direct and goes to Mutsuki's room to apologize. There, he finds Mutsuki reading the script for the play. To their surprise, Mutsuki discovers that there is no kiss scene in the play after all. She informs Haruki, who feels relieved that the misunderstanding was only about a kiss scene. One night, Haruki falls seriously ill and goes to Yayoi's door, asking for help because he doesn't feel strong enough to go back to his room. Yayoi brings him into her room, lays him on the bed, and suggests he rest in his room. However, Yayoi is worried about her brother, so she stays by his side. The next morning, Uzuki and Satsuki come to the dining table for breakfast and notice Haruki's absence. They ask about him, and Yayoi explains that he's unwell and resting in his room. Meanwhile, Haruki wakes up but feels too weak to get up and use the bathroom. He debates whether he should risk it or not but ends up falling back asleep. When he wakes up again, he's relieved that he hasn't had an accident. Haruki manages to get to the bathroom with Yayoi's help. When he returns to his bed, Yayoi notices he's sweating heavily due to the fever. She helps him by wiping his sweat. At that moment, Mutsuki, Uzuki, and Satsuki walk in and misunderstand the situation. From their angle, it looks inappropriate, so they tease Yayoi and leave. Yayoi tries to explain the truth but ends up accidentally hitting Haruki's head against the wall in her rush. Haruki, still recovering from his fever, regrets having told Yayoi about his illness in the first place. Later, Haruki recovers completely, and the sisters decide to watch a horror movie together. Haruki, who doesn't enjoy horror, stays in his room playing video games. Yayoi eventually joins him, asking if she can sleep in his bed, which Haruki finds strange. He assumes she might be unwell and takes her back to her room to check her temperature, but she's fine. A while later, Uzuki and Satsuki also come to Haruki and ask him to stand outside the bathroom while they use it, promising not to take long. Haruki initially refuses, but they start crying, so he agrees. Afterward, when he returns to his bed, he finds Mutsuki there. Before he can wake her up, Mutsuki pulls him onto the bed and doesn't let go. At that moment, Yayoi, Uzuki, and Satsuki come into the room. They aren't upset but reveal they're scared and decide to sleep in Haruki's room that night. Haruki reassures himself that there's no harm in letting his sisters stay if they're frightened. The next morning, he promises to protect them, but the sisters seem to have forgotten all about it, only remembering not to watch horror movies again. On the following Sunday, they decide to visit a public bath. Haruki recalls some of the funny moments they've shared throughout the series, as this is an extra episode. At the bath, Yayoi feels uncomfortable because of the crowd, and Uzuki snatches her towel, leading to a scuffle. Mutsuki steps in to stop their fight. Meanwhile, Haruki reflects on the funny and chaotic moments with his sisters. As they leave the bath, they receive juice bottles as part of the bathhouse owner's policy. Uzuki and Satsuki were excited about the coffee but get disappointed after getting juice instead of coffee. Haruki points out the difference in bottle sizes between Yayoi's and the others. Yayoi misinterprets this comment as a reference to something else and becomes upset. She runs off crying, but Haruki clarifies that he wasn't talking about what she thought. Mutsuki, Uzuki, and Satsuki burst into laughter, and with this, the series ends. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to check out other recaps on our channel.